Hi, everyone, and welcome to Fertility TV. I am here this morning, at least for for us recording, with Susan Pierce Thompson. And Susan is the founder and creator of Brightline Eating. And for those of you who don't know Susan, the inspiration to create Brightline Eating actually came to her back in 2014 in a morning meditation, which I just think is awesome when everything comes to us in certainly in meditation, but especially if it's the first thing in the morning. So, and since that day, Susan has actually made it her mission to help alleviate the suffering and frustration of people who are unable to get their eating under control and lose weight. And I'm super excited to have her here with us talking about PCOS, because I think the two, Susan's mission and the long journey and goal of treating PCOS go hand in hand. So thanks so much for joining us today, Susan.
Oh, thanks, Mark. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So Susan and I met probably about 6 or 7 months ago. And when we started talking, we realized that we had a lot in common. And one of the big things was PCOS. So Susan, why don't we actually start off by talking about maybe in brief your experience with PCOS and what it means to you?
Well, I probably had PCOS for a long, long time before I knew that I did. I mean, I only found out that I had polycystic ovarian syndrome after, let's see, I was, how old would I have been? About 31 or so. And I went off the pill. I'd been on the pill forever and ever and ever. And I went off the pill because my husband and I were ready to start a family. And I never got a period. And I was like, oh. This might be harder than I thought. So we waited a year and I never got a period. And
in a whole year.
In a whole year. And then I started seeing a fertility specialist. You know, I went to my OBGYN and he sent me to a fertility specialist, and she did an ultrasound of my ovaries, and my ovaries, she was showing me how they looked. They looked like the starry night sky. I mean, They were just speckled with follicles everywhere. And she said, yeah, they should not look like that. You know, they should be kind of dark. And then, at ovulation time, one should kind of grow. And I had like all of these little half-baked, eggs in there.
Yeah.
And she said, that's not right. And then she took some blood work and, I was overweight. Well, I guess I wasn't overweight then. I had been overweight for most of my life. Yeah, I think at that point, actually, I was already maybe 2 or 3 years post having lost my weight. And so my blood work was all wonky, and, hormone levels were not what they should have been. And she said, yeah, you have polycystic ovarian syndrome. And I was, I felt kind of scared and bummed, and I didn't really know what to do about that. It didn't sound like there were real clear treatment options. At least she didn't say like, oh, take this pill and it'll go away. I mean, it certainly wasn't like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, so I was facing, maybe not being able to have kids.
Yeah, it's devastating. I hear that same story over and over on a daily basis. And unfortunately, PCOS is the most common female endocrine disorder around. So that's the fortunate thing. The unfortunate thing, there's not really good, at least Western, treatment for it.
She didn't really have a bag of tricks that she was pulling out. She was like, I got this thing. Sorry.
Yeah, and the standard treatment, like you had been given at least previously, was, birth control, which won't help you when you're trying to get pregnant. So
Right. So it was scary. And I was not able, I did not get a period, and I was not able to conceive. We ended up doing rounds and rounds and rounds of fertility treatments, which were harder and scary because of the polycystic ovaries. Like I was getting gonadotropin hormone injections to make ovulation happen. But we had to be really careful because,
it would grow too big, too much.
Yeah. Like, I didn't want to have, sextuplets. Right. So, I did end up having twins, actually. So we did failed treatment after failed treatment after failed treatment after failed treatment. And ultimately we ended up having twins, which comes with its own complications. They were born micro preemies, they came 4 months early, weighing 1 pound. So the whole journey was pretty harrowing.
Yeah, it has a long-term effect. We think of it just in the initial phases of just trying to get pregnant, but beyond that, it definitely has its issues and concerns as well.
Yeah.
So did you ever get your PCOS under control and managed?
I think so. I haven't been, I mean, we had the twins. They ended up being okay.
Yeah.
And now I have a third daughter. We had her naturally. And
Awesome. So then you did.
yeah, and I think, and now I menstruate once a month. So
Awesome.
I do think I got it under control. I would attribute my diet to that probably.
I would imagine.
Steadier diet, because I know blood sugar plays a role in PCOS. And that's why in my tribe, I actually often see PCOS resolving sort of long-term, or at least coming under management, right?
Yeah.
In people who do Brightline Eating, because we take out sugar and flour and stuff like that out of their diet. And so their blood sugar starts to manage, and that has a cascade effect downstream. But you would know more about that than I do. So I think the reason I'm hesitating to say yes, it's under control now, is because I haven't gone back to get the hormones checked again.
Sure.
Because I haven't really had, I'm busy and I haven't had a need to. So,
well, my classification for my patients, when I determine that they're in, relatively good standing and can move forward, is that if they've had 3 or 4 regular cycles in a row, which it sounds like you've had. So, oftentimes we could always run more blood work and just confirm and check. But, the most important thing is that your cycles are regular and your hormones are regular, and those two usually go together. So
I'm going to check my little handy iPhone here, because I have a note in my iPhone for my menstrual periods. And yeah, I'm just looking back. Let's see. So I track how many days in between my periods.
Yeah.
And just counting back, 26 days, 33 days, 30, 30, 29, 32, 37, 29, 30, 39, 29, 52, 31, 78, 30, 33, 47. So if you go back, it's been mostly regular for like the last 2 or 3 years, actually.
Yeah. So it's probably mostly regular. I find one of the bigger things, and you probably would, see this in your community as well, is one of the bigger things that starts to affect cycles from becoming, when they are regular, to throw them off and become irregular, is stress. So, maybe if you're traveling a lot, managing the business, doing all those sorts of things.
With hundreds of thousands of people flooding into your community, and you're like, how do I serve all these people?
Susan, what can I do? Yeah. So I imagine those are times where you see your cycles go a little bit off.
Well, it's interesting you say that then, because my PCOS must be just in great shape, because I have had periods of ridiculous stress without disruption to my cycle.
Oh, that's good.
So yeah, ridiculous stress. So so I feel kind of proud of that.
You should. So how do you feel, with everything you do in Brightline Eating, with diet and the emotional side of eating and so forth? How do you feel all of that ties into PCOS and managing PCOS?
Well, I think it's huge. I mean, I think that, you would know better than me, Mark, but I think that getting the food right is the hardest part. And it's the linchpin. Like, if you don't have the food right, it's going to stay unmanageable and unmanaged. So, I work with people who have had a lifelong struggle with controlling the food they put in their mouth, and I teach them how their brain is wired to make it that way. And I teach them how to heal their brain so that they can finally lose all their excess weight and keep it off. And this is exactly the kind of sort of seemingly intractable problem that we see resolving when diet is finally,
under control.
Yeah, totally.
It's huge. There's 2 types of polycystic ovarian syndrome, 2 types of women that we typically see, and there's all sorts of variations in between. But, you have the classic presentation of PCOS, which is this overweight woman, can't lose weight.
Weight in the belly. I always carried all my weight in my belly.
Weight in the belly. Yeah. Yep, exactly. Irregular cycles, high blood sugar, high testosterone or androgens, irregular hormones. You have this classic presentation. And certainly, food and eating can be a concern on that side of things. But then you also have this other side where you have this really petite, thin woman who doesn't have all of these classic presentations. But when you start to look at their blood work, you start to see it come up. And certainly on like yourself on an ultrasound, when you see the ovaries, right, they come up being positive for PCOS. And I imagine that, managing eating, there's probably eating issues on either side, could be. You have the thin one might be the one who's at CrossFit every day and is super hypersensitive about the type of food that they eat as well.
Yeah, well, so for me, the common thread that I like to talk about is food obsession. So whether you're eating the donut or not eating the donut, if you're thinking about what you've eaten or not eaten, whether you're on your plan or off your plan, whether you exercised or not, how many calories you've had, blah, 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 blah. Like those are my people. That's what I understand. And some of them are in that mental rigmarole while they're eating their third egg McMuffin for the morning.
Right.
And some of them are in that mental rigmarole while they've had their skinny latte and they're on the way to CrossFit. Right. So,
right.
Yeah. So for me, that's why my tagline is happy, thin, and free. And I really emphasize the free part. We want people free from food obsession, neutral around food, able to eat 3 abundant, beautiful square meals a day, with equanimity and poise and some amount of detachment, and then get on with their lives,
That's awesome. And I think it's such a huge piece for PCOS because, most of the guidelines or most of the things that women read online with regards to PCOS all has to do with food and diet. So if we can make that an easier, more freeing experience for them, ability to move within it, and make the right decisions, but from a different state of mind, I think that makes all the world, especially when you work with fertility, and stress can be such a big part of, irregular cycles or controlling your hormones. So I think that's amazing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. It sounds like certainly PCOS had a big influence at a certain stage of your life. But certainly food is this, pervasive thing. And that's always been
the through line in my life.
The through line. Right.
Food is the through line. And Mark, you have a quiz that helps people understand. Is it to help them understand whether they have PCOS or to understand what type they have? Tell me about your quiz, because I'm curious. I would love to take it. Yeah,
so it's primarily to determine if you have PCOS. The next quiz that I'm creating and in the process of creating, but that's much more complicated, is to determine which type or where you fall into that spectrum of PCOS. Yeah. But it's basically, if you don't know if you have PCOS, you think you do, you might have irregular cycles, you might not, you're trying to figure out where you fall in this spectrum of PCOS, then the quiz is really ideal for you because it will help you determine yes or no, or maybe, which might allow you to fall into that atypical pattern, if you will.
Yeah. And I want to make that quiz available to my tribe. Do you have a link that people can go to? I can put a link. I'm going to send this video to my tribe, and I can put a link down below. But for anyone watching, like on YouTube or whatever, is there a URL that they can go to?
Absolutely. We're actually going to tag it right. We're going to put it right in the description here, and it's going to pop up on this screen right here. So they can just click on that link right there, and that will take them straight to the quiz. And certainly for your community, we'll send you the link so that you've got it and you can send it out, and they can take the quiz and find out, kind of where they fall.
Yeah, beautiful. Because we don't, PCOS is like a chicken, and diet is like a chicken and egg thing, right? We don't know. Yeah. But, the people that come to me are having trouble with their food. And I think that really does put them at greater risk for PCOS.
It absolutely does. Yeah. It's the biggest key to managing PCOS, regardless of, medications or not, or supplements or not. If you can't get your diet and your lifestyle, under control and in the game, then everything else is going to be, a waste of time.
Right. Totally. Totally. So
awesome.
What you do and what I do, we're like, we're like lock and key there. Yeah.
Exactly. Yin and yang.
Yeah. Mark, it's so great to see you again.
It was great to see you. Yeah. I really appreciate you taking a little bit of time with me today and sharing your story and introducing yourself to my community and vice versa. So thanks so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you, Mark.
All right. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone, stay tuned to the next episode of Fertility TV, and we'll bring you more awesome information. See you then.